So I was scrolling on my phone the other day and I came across one of these Instagram artist tutorials. I don't know if you've ever seen them. Excuse me. They're pretty shit, aren't they? You've got a don't side and a do side, and you know, on the don't side, the artist will draw a hand like that, and what they'll do is have all the fingers cut off at the same point, so it's like a perfectly square little hand. And then on the do side, the artist will draw a slightly better hand, you know, with the appropriate arcing of the fingers, and maybe shade it a little better, and then they'll say, job's a good un, I'll crack on. And if you are struggling with drawing hands, I can only imagine how annoying this must be, you know, because there's nothing worse than trying to find a tutorial online and having, you know, just being shown the better way how to do it, and not being shown how to get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go onto my laptop and we're going to run through some of my exercises, some of the exercises that I use when I'm, you know, drawing hands in different difficult positions, and hopefully you can take those examples away and employ those in your own work. If you like the video, leave a comment down below, maybe suggesting some other body parts that you might be struggling with drawing and need a bit of help with. I'll happily, you know, make more videos like this. And as always, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us out. But yeah, without any further delay, let's crack on, shall we? Right, so the first thing we're going to want to do before we get started is we're going to want to run through the basic shapes that you'll find in the anatomy of a hand, alright? And it starts off at the wrist, okay, so we'll just mark the wrist there, okay? And then what you've got here along the knuckles is this arch, alright? And that arch is very important because that's what dictates the arcing of the rest of the fingers, okay? And so you'll want to connect this sort of, I don't know what you might call it, this shape here, like this, and then coming out from here, obviously it depends on what angle you're drawing the hand from, but coming out from one of the sides is this triangle, okay? And the triangle doesn't come right to the edge, never comes right to the edge, okay, because most of this area here is the webbing, and that's what brings it into here, so it never comes all the way up here, alright? And then when it comes to the fingers, all it is, or the way that I choose to look at it, is as these sort of separated cylinders, okay? So you've got a more coned cylinder for the tips of the fingers and the thumb, like so. And then you've got a much more standard cylinder there, okay? And that's the same for the rest of the fingers, so let's just go through and add those in. Right, so there we have it. Okay, we've got the you know, these basic shapes in that we use to make up any hand. Alright, and things you might notice at this point is that the little finger here, it is much more independent than the rest. You know, when you look at your hand, the little finger, no matter what position you put your hand in, your little finger tends to be sort of doing its own thing, just ever so slightly. So in this case, it's sort of going off at more of a tangent, and that is again because of this arc that happens here, the way that it adjusts the shape of your hand and therefore changes the positioning of this little finger here. And as we move through the video, that'll become more evident in some of the later exercises that we do. Right, so yeah, we've got that done there, and we're now somewhat familiar with the the shapes that go into drawing a hand. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a few more hands in some different positions, all right, using these techniques in order to aid us with that. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. We'll open up our first image here. Okay, so this is my hand. I eventually just decided to pull them all off of Google Images because it was a lot easier than trying to get them off my phone. But we'll start off with my hand. It's very easy to use those skills that we were just talking about with this. So we start off at the wrist, and there's a slight angle now to the wrist. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it like that. Okay, and then we're going to do that triangular shape. Okay, like so. And then we're just going to bring it up to the top of that rectangular shape. And then for the other side, we're going to bring it up, but we're not going to bring it up all the way and have the arc, here, okay? Because of the way that the hand is contorted, we now have more of a warpage occurring with the arc. So instead, it's going more like this. See that? Okay. And then what we can do is we can see that, okay, so the thumb is coming more towards us here. Right, it's coming at us a little bit more. Alright? So what we're going to do is we're going to treat it as if it were this cylinder and draw it like so. Right. Not perfect, but gets the job done. Alright? And then we're going to put in that tip of the thumb there. Alright? You don't have to do it like that. You can do the cone approach as well. Like that. Okay? And then all we're going to do now is we're going to put in our fingers. Okay? So the first one starts here. Second one then comes up like this, and then the tip is like that. Okay, so look, I'm doing it really roughly here. Okay, you don't have to be overly precise when you're just mapping it out at this point. Don't put that kind of stress on yourself. Just get the shape in, and then you can worry about making it look pretty afterwards. Right, and like that. Like that. And this one's coming a little bit more towards us, so I'm going to do it like that. Alright, like so. And then for this finger here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off at the tip, because that's the most prominent part of the finger. I'm going to draw it like this, and you can see, because it's a lot closer to the camera than this finger, that it is considerably bigger. Alright, because that's that foreshortening happening. Alright, and then second cylinder is going to go around here. Okay, and then the last one is going to come down here, like that, okay? And then for the last one, we pretty much can't see at all any length to that first cylinder, so just gonna roughly illustrate it there, okay? But for the second segment, sorry about that if you can hear that, it's my dog going crazy because it's the morning. Okay, we now have the little finger coming along like so, okay? And now all we have to do a bit of connecting here and here, and there we have it. We've got our hand mapped out, okay? So now all we have to do is lower the opacity, and if you're doing this at home on a sketch pad, then all you need to do is lightly erase this drawing, and then you can draw over it in whatever medium you choose. And now we can go in and neaten this up a bit. And there you go. So it is that easy, especially, you know, with those of you who are beginners and aren't comfortable with drawing hands. You know, you can use those techniques anywhere, and I'm going to show you a few more examples of that now. Okay, so again, here with this hand, we can use the same techniques, only now, because we are looking at the hand from the side, what we can do is we can add a little bit of dimension to that initial shape that we were talking about, that sort of rectangular shape with the triangle coming out the side. Okay, we can add a little bit more depth to that. Alright, that's really going to help us here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark off the wrist. Always helps to start at the wrist. Okay, and then to the back of the hand comes up here, like so. Alright, maybe not quite such an extreme angle. Okay, more like that. Alright, and then right here where we've got the knuckle starting, that's where we can cap that off. Okay, because of the way the hand is positioned, we can no longer see the arc. Okay, but what we can safely assume is that it follows this kind of path. Okay, starts here, ends here. Alright, but what we're going to do now is we're going to come down to that triangle that pops out. Alright, and now we can mark off the thumb and bring it up to around here. Okay, and then it's just a matter of connecting that shape back up, and there you go. You've now made your first steps towards designing this hand. Okay, and then the rest of it should be easy, because again, it's just cylinders. Alright, so what we can do with that, we can bring the bottom of that thumb in like that. Okay, and the top in like that. Where it narrows, just cut that off there, like so, and then we can have that nice, elegant almost diamond shape here. Okay? And there you go. And then for the rest of the fingers, it's much in the same. So right, so now that that's done, you can see again that even though, you know, you've got the hand at this strange angle, you can still clearly see how the little finger often, you know, will branch off and do its own thing. And that's what makes for a much more dynamic hand pose as well, is, you know, exaggerating that little finger ever so slightly. Okay? And we're not going to bother neatening this one up, okay, because it's just as much in the same as the last one, alright? But I will just point out that here, even though this is quite a slender hand, even here you have this ballooning, okay, this ballooning of the skin happening where the fingers curve, and that's because hands have excess padding and excess skin, okay? So, you know, even when you're doing elegant hands, that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice the folds of the skin. You know, you don't have to draw these porcelain-looking hands. You can still have these natural folds, okay? Because that's the way hands are meant to look. Right. So now let's move on to this one here. Right. And I picked this off because it's quite it illustrates the point I'm about to make very well. And that's all around, it's all centered around the arc of the knuckle, okay? And the first thing that you'll notice is that the fingers, okay, they are almost staggered in a way, okay? Because you've got the index finger and the middle finger up here, then you've got the ring finger here, and then you've got the little finger all the way down here, right? And that is because of the ball of the hand, okay? This really meaty bit at the base of your thumb, right? Which is keeping these two fingers slightly elevated, okay? And the other thing you might notice, just get rid of those. The other thing that you might notice is that the middle finger, the knuckle, almost completely obscures the index finger, okay? And that's because, one, it's just the larger finger, but also because it is at the center and the highest point of this arc, okay? So it protrudes a lot more than the other fingers, even in a clenched fist. You look at your fist now, right? And I picked this off because it's quite it illustrates the point I'm about to make very well, and that's all around. It's all centered around the arc of the knuckle, okay? And the first thing that you'll notice is that the fingers, okay, they are almost staggered in a way, okay? Because you've got the index finger and the middle finger up here, then you've got the ring finger here, and then you've got the little finger all the way down here, right? And that is because of the ball of the hand, okay? This really meaty bit at the base of your thumb, right? Which is keeping these two fingers slightly elevated, okay? And the other thing you might notice, just get rid of those. The other thing that you might notice is that the middle finger, the knuckle, almost completely obscures the index finger, okay? And that's because, one, it's just the larger finger, but also because it is at the center and the highest point of this arc, okay? So it protrudes a lot more than the other fingers. And I see a lot of, artists making this mistake, and what they'll do is they'll have, so the index finger will come all the way down like this, and then they'll just have the knuckles stacked, okay, and then the back of the hand running like this. And that's fine, but it doesn't show off proper hand anatomy, okay, when in actual fact you want this protrusion to occur, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off again at the wrist, alright, and like we did with the last hand, we're going to create it as a 3D object, much more of a 3D object, okay. So we're going to bring up the back of the hand to this point, okay, mark that off around there, alright, and then bring it back down to around here, okay. And now here, where this bit of the thumb, the triangle as I've been calling it, comes out, okay, but it stops there because the thumb will now be covering the rest of it, so you don't need to worry about it anymore. But if it helps, by all means you can connect it up like this, okay. So the arc, right, follows this path. As you see, I've already marked it previously, okay. So it's like this, and there you can see clearly how the middle knuckle now alters where the back of this hand is actually, where the sort of, the back line will be indicated, because now it's out here before coming down like this, alright. And so now let's start off at the little finger, okay. So we've got the knuckle around here, and because of the arcage of the knuckles, we have a slight twist occurring with this finger, okay. Because when you see a fist, right, you've got your index, you've got your middle, and you've got your ring finger. And you'll see some people, they'll just draw the little finger like this and then stick a thumb on it like that, right? But it's not quite like that, okay? In actual fact, it's much more rounded, okay? Because this arc is still occurring. So then you've got your ring finger there, then your little finger is much more tucked in, like that. Okay, and that's why we're seeing, much more of the top of this finger than, let's say, these two. Okay, so we're going to put in our cylinder like this. Okay, and then we can bring down the second part of it here like this, and then we can just roughly illustrate it there, okay, because most of this will be covered up by the meat of the palm and the folds, alright, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, and then from here, slightly more elevated, we have the ring finger. I keep calling it the ring finger, even though I think most of these hands I've been drawing have been right hands, but you get the idea. I don't know if it has a different name when it's on the right hand, or if it's still considered the ring finger. But yeah, now what we have is the middle finger, which is coming up and almost completely obscuring the index finger. Okay, like this. And then just creeping up behind is the index finger, like so. And then here, we're going to use those cylinders again for the thumb, like so. Okay, and then we can just connect that up a bit more. Alright, and there you have it. And all we need to do now is realize we've done it all on the same layer, so that's wonderful. Bring that down a bit, and now what we can do is go in and neaten that up. Alright, so we'll start with the middle finger. And we can bring it all the way to around here. Okay, and that's just where ever so slightly the ring finger's knuckle gets in the way. So we can now bring that to about here. Right, and then from this point we can carry down to the wrist. Okay, then keep adding in those fingers. It's that easy, right? Now for the last one, I just thought we'd do something a little bit different, okay, and play around with a bit of foreshortening, okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut up a bit and I'm going to try and do this as quickly as I can, okay? And then we'll, talk about it afterwards, right? So here we go. Right, so very quickly, very easily to, just quickly map out where those fingers are. I mean, I don't know why you'd ever want to draw a hand like this unless, I don't know actually, if you were to, I suppose you could have someone playing the piano actually, couldn't you? That might work, but yeah. Anywho, now all it needs doing is the same that we've been doing before. Take down the opacity or rub it out, and then start working over the top. Right, well that's all I've got for today. Hopefully some of you learned something new about drawing hands. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like it, then just leave a comment down below. And as always, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel out. Cheers. In a bit.